let's invite Janet to the stage.
Yay! Thank you. Hi. Thank you. I had the pleasure of working with Tiffany recently. Actually, Tiffany, I don't know if you know this, was an executive producer on a short film that my son is in. So he's actually working more than I am right now.
That is how old is your son?
He's 7.
He's already in showbiz.
Yes,
right,
he is.
of course.
Yes, and he's actually working with Leah Salonga.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
I know. Leah Salonga plays his mom. He does not know how lucky it is. And also the director for it is Abigail Wen. Yes, Abigail Wen. We love her novel. And also the other director, because it's part animation, is John Ayoshima, and he's the director of Ultraman.
You're talking about The Veil?
Yes. So my son is in The Veil.
With some luck, we should be able to see a preview of that at Comic-Con.
I hope so.
Right, that's the plan. So, thank you for coming. It's you can see so much talent you have here.
Thank you.
And I love to ask this question so people can get a sense of it. Did you always know that you want to go into showbiz, or is this something, or what was your origin story?
Oh, my origin story was my mom and dad, they got together and then had me, no. Okay, so no, I did not know I wanted to be in entertainment. I was always on stage for some reason or other, with violin or, I just liked, I guess, the attention. But no, I didn't think that it was actually a legitimate career, because as a good Asian girl, I was like, okay, I'm gonna be a doctor. But to be fair, I genuinely wanted to be a doctor. I wanted to work with Doctors Without Borders. I loved traveling. I loved anything to do with being able to serve communities. So I wanted to be a doctor in the sense of not in the hospital setting, but I wanted to kind of be out in the field. And so that's kind of what gave me these opportunities to travel around the world. I worked in India after college. Then I went to Taiwan. I was working in a hospital there, and that's kind of where I got my break into the industry.
So what inspired you to look at medicine in the first place?
I just loved it. So there's all these little moments, I was on a plane once when I was a kid, and somebody said, is there a doctor on board? And I just thought that's the coolest thing to be able to do, is to be able to save somebody's life. I don't know if that doctor actually, saved anybody's life, but to me, it was like, okay, wow, you're a needed professional. That was one thing. And then when I was traveling, I did meet a lot of Doctors Without Borders or health professionals that were working on the field. And I was just always drawn to what they were able to provide. I don't know, there was something about what they were doing and how people resonated with what they were giving. And so when I was in high school, when I was 16, I went to Ecuador for the summer, where I volunteered with this program called Amigos de las Americas. And I was just vaccinating dogs and cats for the whole summer, but then I got to see what it was like to work kind of as a health professional abroad.
Already at that point, I remember when I graduated from med school, and it was my first year straight out, and I was on the plane, and they actually said, is there a doctor on board? And my first impression was, please let there be another doctor on board. Please. Anyone but me.
So, question, did you push that button and say,
I waited until they came and asked it in, and I'm like, God damn it. I can maybe help.
And what was the emergency? See me, this is like the ideal scenario. I'm like, oh my God, pick me.
No, it's not ideal. It was terrifying. It was basically a lady who was close to labor.
Yeah.
And they were like, is she okay to give birth here? I'm like, yeah, if she wants to. but I like, if she can hold it, I would advise her to try to keep it until we land, and they made a quick landing.
Yeah, that's amazing. See, I love that. I feel like as a doctor, you are able to impact, make such a big impact on so many people in tiny ways and in also these huge ways.
So in this path being a doctor, how far did you get?
So after MIT, I did the year abroad in Taiwan, and then I got into medical school, and then I went, this was in UT, so I'm from Texas, and I got into University of Texas in San Antonio. And after orientation, I had to walk away because at the same time that this was happening, I had spent the year in Taiwan, and I was getting opportunities to continue working in entertainment. And then being in Texas as well, like my class of 25, they said, who here is from Texas? And 25 of us raised our hands.
Oh.
So it was kind of like both of these things happening at the same time. I just had this incredible journey of being in India, working in India, Nepal, and Taiwan. So it was really global, really international. And then suddenly going back to Texas, where everybody was from Texas. It just felt really, really closed. And to be perfectly honest, it was way more interesting when I got the phone call saying, hey, do you want to come and meet Jackie Chan? Versus, do you want to go and study microbiology? It was very different.
Tell us about the Jackie Chan meeting.
Oh God. Okay, so I had this opportunity to meet a famous director. Okay, this is before I knew who anybody was, and then I was like, okay, sure, I'm very happy to meet this director. And everybody, when I got there, this was in Hong Kong, they flew me to Hong Kong. When I got to the room, everybody was so nervous and super excited, but I was like, I have no idea who I'm meeting. This is Director Chen. And so I was like, okay. And then this guy walked in, and it just swarmed by everybody. And then I just sat in the back, because I'm not gonna be able to fight through all that. I don't know who this person is. And then he kind of made his way over. And this director, Chen Long, that I was supposed to meet, was Chen Long, which is Jackie Chan. So he walked over, and then I was like, oh my God, you're Jackie Chan. Hi, nice to meet you. And I was like, okay, so do you know who this director Chen is? And he's like, I'm Director Chen. I was like, oh, sorry. But he was so cool, very, very fun to meet. And that, in a way, it was really good that I had zero knowledge of what I was getting into, because I think I would have been really nervous. I would have, not really known what to do with myself. But yeah, just the fact that I was like, oh my God, Jackie Chan, what are you doing? Hey, what's up?
That's awesome, that's beautiful. So can you tell me a little bit about what was the mental process, or if there was a struggle, of letting go of what you thought you were supposed to do versus all of a sudden what you think you might actually want to do instead?
There's always the difficulty of making the decision and then convincing not only the people around you, but and then convincing yourself.
Yeah.
So for me to walk away from medicine was difficult because I wanted to do it. It was something that I knew, it was stable, it was something I had worked towards, my entire high school and then college career. And then to suddenly walk away from it, going into this complete unknown, it was definitely a big decision. And then I had to convince my parents. And every Asian parent wants you to give up medical school to become a model, right? So in the process of convincing my parents, it also it proved to me, I was like, okay, this is something I really want to try. And even now, so like not walked away, I don't want to say walked away, I've transitioned, or I'm transitioning from a 20-year career in Asia to now coming to the US. In my mind, it's also like, what are you doing? You're walking away from a stable career, and then you're starting from zero here. But I feel like, one, I enjoy these moments where you're pushed, you're challenged, it's the unknown, it's exciting. I love making mistakes, because I feel like when you're making mistakes, that's when you know you're being challenged. That's when you know you're not being in this, stale environment. Mm-hmm. Because if you're doing everything perfectly, great, that's wonderful. But are you pushing yourself? Are you doing the best that you can be? Is there something else out there? So that transition was very, very hard. Like, I had 3 years of doubting myself. Like, I had never put on makeup before. Like, I didn't know what these eye curlers were. And then suddenly I'm being thrown into the modeling world, where, nothing that you studied mattered, right? It mattered how you looked, how skinny you were, how you stood, who you knew, etc. So it was very different. It was very challenging. But I'm a very curious person. I'm a very optimistic person. So even when things are not going as well as I would like them to be, I try to see the best in every scenario. So when I don't get jobs, I'm like, okay, what can I do to improve it? Okay, maybe I can write about this. Maybe I can find other creative outlets. When I started the career in Taiwan, where I was trying to model, I was not skinny enough. I was too dark. I was too muscular. There were so many twos, right? I was two whatevers. Then I started teaching English. I met people, I taught violin, I joined violin groups. I just did whatever I could to keep myself mentally sane.
You mentioned and touched on something that was interesting because I hear it a lot. Did you go through any emotional or mental journeys when so much of your value is now placed on your appearance?
How long do you have? Like, should we grab a coffee and everybody, let's sit down and talk? Oh yes, I had major issues, and I have openly talked about this, and I hope I'm able to help as many people as I can. I suffer through depression. I had an eating disorder, but I had an eating disorder where I didn't look like I had an eating disorder because I wasn't super skinny and I wasn't obese. I had what was called binge eating disorder, where you just stuff your face, but then you don't throw up, because then that's the eating disorder, that's bulimia. And I hated myself, I hated the way I looked. There was nothing that could make me happy except eating food, and that also was what made me hate myself. So it was a total addiction, and for 3 years I had severe depression. I would not see anybody. During the day, I would go to the local grocery store or whatever and spend $100 on snacks and then just consume it all night and then fall asleep in pain and in sadness and in misery, and then I would wake up and I'd do the whole thing all over again.
How long did that go on, and how did you finally snap out of that?
It wasn't a daily thing. You know, there were days that I had great days where I would exercise and I would be like, okay, I look good, I'm gonna see somebody. And then I would pick at my salad, you know, and then there were days when there were weeks that would go by where I would not see anybody. And this was off and on for about 3 years. The worst it got was I would literally starve myself for, you know, say Monday to Friday. I would eat 5
What, you starve yourself Monday to Friday?
Monday to Friday. I would eat 5 egg whites a day, drink water, and then I would book a commercial, whatever, for that Saturday. Everybody would say, you look amazing, oh my God, you lost like 5 kilos, how did you do it? And I was like, oh, I just worked out. And then after that commercial shoot, I would go and I would binge for the next 5 days. So it was pretty awful. It was very, very difficult. I got out of it through multiple alleys, and there is no one right way. I've talked to counselors. I went to friends, I went to family. Sometimes even the closest people to you don't understand it. In fact, it's usually the people that are closest to you that aren't able to help you because they're so close, and sometimes you do need somebody that's really far removed from you. Ultimately, what happened was I auditioned for Fun Taiwan. I got the travel show. My first question when I got the job, I asked the producers, I was like, how much weight do I need to lose? And he said, no, you're fine. What are you talking about? In fact, you're going to be traveling around, you're going to be eating food, you're probably going to gain weight. And we don't care. Like, we want you to be you. I'm like, wait, what? That was a huge lift off my shoulders. And then the second question I asked was, okay, how pale do I need to be? He's like, what are you talking about? You're a travel show host. You're going to be in the sun. Like, I want you to be you. The fact that they were so acceptant of who I was allowed me a space to eventually be acceptant of myself. So it didn't happen overnight. It was weeks to months of focusing on something else that wasn't just myself. You know, so once I got the show, I had to do my research. I had to learn how to be a better host. I had to work with a team. I had to learn so many things that wasn't singularly focused on myself. And that's what got me eventually out of my eating disorder first and then my depression.
So once you got past that and you were able to look back at your old self, what did you see? And what did you see in the new person that wasn't in the old person?
I don't regret anything that I've gone through. In fact, I feel like having gone through those 3 years of depression has made me more empathetic to other people. When I do interview other people and they have any struggle, whether it's any addiction or just a loss of any kind, I'm way more understanding, way more empathetic than I was before that. And I'm just more human, I feel like, because no human is perfect. No human has a wonderful life. I'm a very optimistic person, but I'm also, I have my moments where I'm sad. And I feel like those are the things that bring you closer to people. It makes you more empathetic as a person. It really helps me as a host. It's incredible as an actor because you're able to touch on these things. Not that I have to bring up these old emotions, but then I understand. When I read the script and I see, oh, this person has suffered a loss of something, I'm like, I get it, I understand. And it's not a judgment. Like, there's no judgment because you're like, okay, I see where this character has come from.
How do you, if at all, but I'm assuming you do, translate that lesson, or how do you try to teach that to your sons?
I teach them to be curious all the time about everything. So about themselves, about the world. And that includes their emotions. So they are constantly, I mean, my sons are 4 and 7, so they are an emotional mess, right? But it's so cute to see them go through all these things, and I try to help them embrace it in whatever way I can, and every child is different. So I'm learning. I've made mistakes, and I'm constantly making mistakes with them as well, but I want them to, I want them to be comfortable talking to me about it, and comfortable being themselves. So like when they're crying, I'm like, okay, cry, let it out, you be mad at me, do whatever you need to do, and then let's try and talk about it, like it in your terms. You're 4 years old. Tell me what you're feeling right now in your terms. And I try my best to understand it, but I say that right now because my kids are in LA, away from me. I'm here by myself. It's so much easier. When you're actually in the moment, it's definitely way more challenging.
Based on what you have gone through, wait, I never asked you, are you an only child or do you have siblings yourself?
I have an older sister.
So did she take on the medical road or did she go somewhere else?
So my sister is the poster child of great Asian daughter. She went to Berkeley. And then she went to Georgetown Law, became a lawyer, and then worked on international law in Singapore, Switzerland, Shanghai, Sydney. Yeah, she's like the smartest person I know, and definitely poster child, like just amazing daughter, and she's a great sister.
So, when you look at her and look at yourself, do you sometimes go like, that might have been, that maybe in medicine, but that could have been my life in that path? Yeah,
and I think I would have been just as happy doing medicine. I think I would have forged my own path in the medical field. Like I said, I've always loved travel, and that was what attracted me to medicine in the first place. So I think I would have eventually found my way, through the medical path. Just like right now, I'm starting over in the U.S. and I've been a host, I've been an actor. I'm still trying to navigate my way here, and maybe it's as a producer, maybe it's as a writer. I'm still open to so many paths and opportunities, and it's exciting. It's terrifying. Okay, it is absolutely terrifying when you're like, okay, can I get a paycheck, please?
Yeah.
But it's exciting. It's exciting.
So you say 20 years in Taiwan, right?
Yeah.
So you were in showbiz, and obviously just from the video, it wasn't just a travel show. You were in movies, you were in reality shows. What is entertainment industry like in Asia versus as you're learning out here in, say, California, the States? What are some of the core differences you discovered that if someone wants to be in one of the others, what's the mindset they need to change into?
I mean, to be honest, I don't know Hollywood well enough to really know like the intricate details, but I would say in my experience of just say the travel sphere, like travel show hosting, it's so much easier to get things done. Like, to get permits, to just say, hey, I'm gonna take a crew of 4 people, we're gonna go here and we're just gonna get it done. And you don't need as much budget because everything in general is so much cheaper. And because of that, you're also not fragmented as much. So when I have worked with productions here, there's the writer, and you don't step on their toes. And then the producer's the director, so everybody has their profession and they do it incredibly well. So that is an advantage of working here. The disadvantage, I would say, is that when you're in Asia, I was the host, I was also the writer, I was also a researcher, because sometimes I'd be like, oh, hey, how about we do this place? They don't know as much as I do, so then I would research Texas and be like, okay, how about we do this and this and this? And then, then you would do some producer rules because you happen to know a person or you happen to know something that might be better. You take on a lot more responsibility in Asia because everybody's a multi-hyphenate there. Here, it is very specific what you do, and you do it really, really well. So it's not better or worse, it's just, it's different.
Okay. I guess I'm curious also, like, as you're being a mother right now, and you grew up, from a perspective of where you wanted to do one thing, but you found another path. What are some of the challenges you think this next generation are going to have to face that's something that our generation just never even had to deal with, but you had to prepare as a parent for?
I do not envy this next generation. I was listening to the AWA talk earlier, and I was like, wow, they are so intelligent, very well spoken, and they have a clear understanding of where they want to be and what they want to do. My kids, I worry about social media. I worry about AI, not in the sense that it's going to take over jobs. Like, yes, it will, but I worry about how they're going to distinguish between what's real and what's not real. I am for AI because it's a tool. I am not for AI, obviously, for all the negative reasons. But how do you can't choose one or the other. It's like when the internet happens, right? You're going to get the good with the bad. And so this is what our next generation is going to have to deal with. And so since they're going to be in it, I have to learn it as well. And I feel like as a parent, that is our responsibility to understand what their world is going to be like. I do not envy them because it is way more complicated than our lives were. Our lives were you literally open the door, go out and play.
Yeah.
And you didn't have to worry about these things. Now, like, we are so protective because we need to be. It's a different world. It is a different world. And at the same time, because of who I was able to be, with my parents letting me fly, I want to give that to them, but I'm also terrified because they're my babies. It's just so many things to consider.
How do you plan on, if you even have an idea, how do you plan on letting them fly, but also, please be careful out there?
I think by being aware of what it is, by educating ourselves, knowing what it is, being open to discussion with them. And as much as I rely on social media for work, I also don't want them to be addicted to it. And so I feel like teaching them boundaries is important. I think teaching them about the social implications of it is extremely important. It's like, how do you not care about what this random person on the internet is saying about you when I'm affected? And I'm an adult, and I'm a mature adult. So teaching them how to care and not care about the right things and the wrong things, I think that is, that's something that I'm going to have to learn to do, and that's very important for the mental health of the next generation.
It sounds like they're going to have to grow up even faster.
Oh yeah,
right?
Oh yeah. When every mistake that you have is highlighted, oh my God, if there was social media back in the day when I grew up, I would have. Oh my God, I don't even want to think about the things that we did. But you're allowed to be a kid. You're allowed to make mistakes, and this generation is not afforded that, and I think that's such a shame. Because we learn so much from our mistakes. We grow as people through our mistakes. You learn empathy because of mistakes.
Yes.
And you grow as a community. You learn who you are because of these things. And I don't know if kids now are getting that opportunity.
Not nearly. It's a lot less forgiving.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
You mentioned AI, and I'm curious about how do you see AI potentially affecting entertainment?
Oh, in every aspect. As a writer, it's getting affected. As a person on camera, you can alter anything. You don't have to hire me. You can hire this AI drawing that's like 1/10 of like the second to do it. There's a bit of talk about the brutalist changing the language to make it sound more unique. More accurate. And it's like, I'm torn about that because you want it to be authentic, but at the same time, you want to use it as a tool. What's the difference between that and color coding, for example, or other things that are not necessarily AI, but that are tools that we use to enhance our overall experience? I'm very torn. because I think it's a great tool. I don't want it to take away the creative side of entertainment. And yeah, it's an interesting time for everybody. I hope it doesn't take away my work, but at the same time, I need to evolve, with it, and I need to learn how to live with it and also how to use it as a tool.
Now you talked about how as you grow and evolve, what are some of the things, you spent 20 years just being this icon in Asia. What do you want to do in the next 20 years in terms, if it's entertainment, what is the vision you have for your next chapters now?
I would love to have the same impact that I was able to have in Taiwan. I had a great run, and I love every minute of it, and I hope I can continue the work in Asia as well. But what I loved the most was that I got to do something I genuinely loved. My travel show was me exploring places, meeting people, and sharing it with the world. And if I can do that in some manner in the rest of the world, be it as a producer, as a travel show host, as a presenter of anything, even as an actor, writer, whatever that thing is, whatever that element is, I would love to be able to recreate that for the next 20 years. So that I'm also able to look back in 20 years and go like, okay, I made my mark. It could be a little tiny mark, but I made that little dot in either entertainment or whatever it is that I'm trying to do.
Probably final question here. What's your mission or stance, if you have one, on representation now?
I would love for all of us to be open. And that's including in the AAPI sense. Like, there's so much fragmentation already with the world and within the races and also within our community itself. And I think that's a shame. Like, even everybody's trying to fight for their little piece of the nugget. And I understand it. And it's fair. It's totally understandable. Like, there's so many different groups and so many different motivations. There's so many different reasonings for different groups. But I would love to see, I guess, more acceptance of these other groups. You can be different, and that's totally acceptable. It's kind of like when TV happened, and you had Parasite. You also had Bling Empire, and you had Crazy Rich Asians. You had all these different views of Asians on TV. And it's like, okay, I might not watch one of these shows, but it doesn't matter. I love that it's out there. I love that the world is able to accept that there's different versions of Asians. And I would love to see that in general in the community. It's like, don't look down on another Asian. Okay, also, even if not to say that you can't judge. So like, if something isn't good, you can talk about it and say, how can this be improved? I'm not saying like you have to openly be like, oh my God, I'm supportive of every Asian show that's out there. No, there might be some that are not that great. And we can improve off of that, but we have to be open about it. We have to be able to talk about it. There was a period of time when an Asian show came out, you weren't able to say a single bad thing about it because it's like, oh, you're not an ally, you're not a supporter. I'm like, no, I think you can be an ally and an extreme supporter by giving constructive criticism. And that's of me as well. Like, if I'm not doing something well, I want to know. And I need to know it from my peers who know Asians the best. Right, so it's like this, I don't know, this weird thing where we have to be open to the differences within ourselves. We also have to accept that we are different and then the same at the same time.
I love that. My last question here. What, if any, words of wisdom you want to give to people who, I guess, are on that journey, discovering that journey, evolving that journey? You've lived almost 2-3 different lifetimes right now. So I would love for you.
Are you saying I'm old?
No, I'm saying you're wise. You're wise beyond years. But yeah, I would love to hear someone who's lived so many different lifetimes. And what advice would you give from all these lifetimes?
Oh gosh, what has been my biggest, I guess, tool is that I'm always curious. So I'm fearful of many things. There's so many challenges and I'm like, I'm terrified to try this, but I am more curious than I'm afraid. So I am curious about this job. I'm curious about this place. I'm curious about this person. I might be terrified of them or that thing or of that opportunity, but oh, what is it like? I'm curious. And I think that curiosity is what makes me forget that I'm scared. It makes me forget that I might not be up for this challenge, but it doesn't matter. I'm going to try. I'm afraid to introduce myself to this person because I might not be good enough or I might not be smart enough, but it doesn't matter. I would love to know who they are. And this curiosity has opened up so many doors for me. It has made me put aside my deficiencies. It makes me focus on the things that I can focus on rather than the things that I can't really change at that moment. So I would say if you're trying to break into any industry, or if you're trying to create something, or you're trying to do something, I would say focus on what's ahead of you. Like focus on the curiosity side of it. Ask questions. Focus on that thing rather than am I good enough? Am I ready enough? And that you will be ready when you are ready. That will come. But like focus on that. Focus on the other person. Focus on the other thing, and be curious about that. And that focus has opened up so many doors for me.
I love it. It's focus on your curiosity and not your insecurity.
Yes.
I love that.
Yes.
It couldn't be more wise. Thank you so much for joining us here, Janet. Thank you so
Time's
much.
already up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.